Alright, the book I will be talking about today is Blood on Their Hands by Mandy Matney. My family would kill me if they knew I was speaking to a reporter about this. She paused, but I have some things I need to tell you. This quote refers to a part of the book where the journalist received anonymous information about the boating crash she was investigating. Some of the characters in this book are Mandy Matney, who is the author of this book and a journalist, and she shares her experience investigating the Murdaugh family murders. Alec Murdaugh, he was a charismatic and powerful figure within the Islington area who was secretly committing fraud and money laundering, as well as dealing with addiction. He was highly rumored as being the prime suspect for his wife and son's death. Maggie Murdaugh, the wife of Alex Murdaugh and mother of Buster and Paul. She ends up being murdered and is one of the many deaths tied to the Murdaugh family. Buster Murdaugh, the oldest and only surviving son of Alec and Maggie Murdaugh. He is also rumored to have ties to the murder of 19-year-old Stephen Smith. Paul Murdaugh. He was the son and the youngest of Alec and Maggie Murdaugh's children. He was mysteriously shot and killed with his mother. He is also responsible for a drunken boat crash that ended in the death of 19-year-old Mallory Beach. He went to court over the accident, but was never charged with anything and got off pretty easy because of the power his family had. A very wealthy family, so the family resided on a 1,770-acre property called the Moselle Farm. This farm was located in Islington, South Carolina, and spaced enough room for a farm, dog kennels, and much more. The property was under Murdaugh ownership since the 1800s. To sum up this book, it is about a journalist named Mandy Matney who, along with her reporting partner Liz Farrell, got hints about a fatal boat crash that involved the son of a high-status family, Paul Murdaugh. They start to investigate the Murdaugh family and all the crimes tied to them. This includes the deaths of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh, the Murdaugh's housekeeper Gloria Satterfield, an acquaintance of Buster Murdaugh, Stephen Smith, and Mallory Beach, a friend of Paul Murdaugh. Until the murders of Maggie and Paul, Alec Murdaugh got away with covering up his son's boating incident and stealing money from clients. One summer night in 2021, Paul and Maggie Murdaugh were outside walking around the dog kennels in their backyard. Alec Murdaugh stated he had been gone checking on his sick parents, and when he came back he found his wife and son shot and killed in their backyard. However, if it weren't for the evidence found on Paul's phone, investigators wouldn't have had enough information to make Alec the prime suspect. Is something ever solved? Um, in this book, the murders of Paul and Maggie were never fully solved, and it wasn't clarified who actually killed them. But there was a convicted perpetrator since the murders, although they haven't pleaded guilty to the crime. Um, they were convicted because there's too much credible evidence against them. Um, Although this person is convicted and will be locked away for 40 years, it will never undo the harm they committed against their community. And the intent behind the murders of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh still have yet to be revealed. This book is structured is it follows Mandy Matney, a journalist and the author of this book, and her partner Liz Farrell on investigating the Murdaugh family murders. Throughout this book, her and her partner Liz Farrell look into a drunken boating incident, the mysterious deaths of Gloria Satterfield and Stephen Smith, as well as the eerie unsolved deaths of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh. The book features thoughts she had during her investigation into this case and real conversations between her and her partner Liz. This true crime story reminds me a lot about a similar case that happened around 1996 in Colorado. The Ramsey family was a wealthy and well-respected family of four: Patsy and John the parents, and their children Burke and John Benet. The morning after Christmas, the mother found a ransom note for her daughter JonBenet. The police were called, and eventually her deceased body was found tied and covered up in the basement of their home. This case remains unsolved till this day, but many have theorized that the parents or a parent had involvement in her murder. I would say this book isn't a very difficult read. However, the author focuses a lot on herself throughout the book. This made learning about the case not as interesting in my opinion. If you already know about the Murdaugh family murders, then reading about someone else's thoughts about it could be interesting. However, if you don't know much about the case already, then the structure of the book might confuse you about the facts of the case. I would recommend this book to someone who already has an understanding of the Murdaugh case. If you haven't heard of this case before, this book might be a little confusing because the author's personal life and thoughts on the Murdaugh murders sort of blur the real timeline and facts of the true crime case.